Welcome, everybody, to the second ever Nerdmigos podcast. My name is Doragon. I am joined today by Crash Echo and Digital Painter. Crash, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
And our dear Digital Painter, welcome.
Woo! I'm happy. I'm really happy.
So, for anybody who hasn't met you guys before or followed you anywhere in the universe of the interwebs, we'll start off with an introduction to yourselves. So, Crash, as you come first in the alphabet, give us a bit of background about yourself, how you came to be part of the Nerdmigos, what you do, and anything else that you may want to say to the folks today.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Crash. I've got a YouTube channel, Twitch streamer, all that kind of stuff. Kind of started out with the Nerdmigos basically by meeting Doragon first, really. I mean, Digital Painter and I knew each other through college and things, but didn't really have much of a social standing apart from attending one Comic-Con together, and then went away to London and at the MCM there, my first big one for my 18th, which was a lot of fun. Bumped into a rather injured, crippled, whatever term you want to use.
So for those who want to understand about that, I was on crutches at the time. I'd shattered my ankle. Anything you could break, I had broken it. And up rocks this young man dressed as Grey Fullbuster.
And was fans of both franchises and was just met and had a chat. And then the next day, for the weekend, he was cosplaying Natsu. Nearly said the awful one then. I was cosplaying Natsu, and I decided to do Grey again because it was like, for an October time period, fairly warm, quite a good environment. Also, the conversation we had was that we were both doing Fairy Tail. So met up again, and then it sort of just developed from there, really. You kind of didn't know what happened. It sort of just built up and built up and built up and built up, and here we are now 6-7 years on down the road, which
Wonderful.
Is absolutely crazy. But yeah, as for what I do is I Twitch stream, not as much as I used to, mainly just because of software. I YouTube, which has started picking up a bit more now. Probably going to become the Nerdmigo's resident travel blogger for YouTube, as I'm moving away to Japan in February, which I'm very much looking forward to. And I know in the previous podcast, Doragon spoke about going over there himself, and kind of enraged me a bit and pushed me forward to get out there as well.
Yeah, it's definitely worthwhile going out there. Next up, we have our other original member. When we first became the Nerdmigos, it was us three who were there. But Digital Painter's a bit more of that for us, aren't you, mate? You are our resident super artist.
Super artist, yeah. I'm Digital Painter on Facebook. I'm more of a freelance artist. I mainly do like character-based stuff, but I have branched out into other stuff now. For Crash, I'm making a map right now for our D&D game that we play. I got introduced to you, Doragon, when you came to the Telford Comic-Con in, what was that,
2014, that would be.
Yeah, 14. Wow, a long time ago. And we've just stuck as friends ever since, pretty much. You guys got me into the Destiny scene as well, like with the Taken King. Oh,
yeah.
Best time of my life. We just grew in friendship and everything, and freaking meeting up all the time, and then we are as a
much wider group, eh?
Yeah, we just become bigger and bigger. Like, we've added 4 new members.
I think we're maxing out. We're around the 10 mark at the moment. 10 people within the wider Nerdmigos family. They all do different things. So as Digital Painter's just said, he is a freelance artist. His work is exceptional. So the artwork that you see for this podcast is drawn by him. That's how good he is. My entire branding for Doragon has been created by Digital Painter. If any of you are looking for something along those lines, or somebody to do an artistry type project for you, I would definitely recommend hitting him up. We will discuss at the end of the podcast where you can find each and every one of us. And then if you want to, you can go check him out and hit him up for any work that you may want. You may notice there's one voice missing today. Our dear Wibblesniff, who was here on the inaugural podcast. As he outlined last time, he did break his back. Not specifically broken, but lots of pain, and he's currently laid out flat on his back on the bed, unable to do much of anything. He has sent us a few messages of things that he wants us to say. The main one is leading into our next topic of conversation. So we had this with Wibblesniff and I last month, and it's something we're taking forward through every podcast moving forward. Being nerds and geeks ourselves, we do a lot of video gaming. A lot of us do content creation. So the first section on most podcasts is going to be, what have you been playing this past month? For Wibblesniff, that has been two main games. One has been the massive Borderlands 3. Everybody's seen that that's been released. It's been getting rave reviews. There are things that to me seem a bit off, but we'll wait until Wibblesniff's back. He's the one who's actually fully invested in playing in it at the moment. But the other one has been Monster Hunter World. And the only thing he's asked us to say through the entirety of the podcast on his behalf is how much he does not like Black Veil Val Hazak.
I don't blame him.
You're at that point. I've also been playing Monster Hunter World Iceborne, but I have not got to the Black Veil just yet. How much of a pain is that monster?
Do you remember the effluvia thing that would happen with him all the time, where he would come to half health?
Massive damage over time thing.
Yeah, and it would take you to half health, max half health. That happens twice as much. And his breath attacks now, he's got holes in the side of him kind of things, and like spores, so they puff out all of the smoke and stuff. So if you're on his side, he'll puff out the smoke on you, and you'll just get effluvia straight away if you haven't got armor that protects against it. So that'll just happen constantly.
And the annoying thing is you need to beat him multiple times to build a set that can stand up against that.
Yeah, I've only fought him twice ever, because I did it for me and then I did it for Wibblesmith as well. And I hated him. I mean, I can handle him, but it's not nice. It's really hard fight. It's not the hardest fight in the game, but it's really up there in scale, I would say, for the game.
Wow.
I suppose the thing with Val Hazak is that it's just it's more mechanical fighting with Val rather than a difficult fight. It's just being prepared for the kind of, because in terms of actually hitting you, he doesn't really hit that often and that much hard for kind of a melee attack. It's more just his perks and abilities that really fuck you over.
Yeah. The new version is a bit iffy, because he can swipe and stuff, and he has this new attack where he makes like a giant cloud of smoke in front of him, and he backs up to make it move even more, so then it's even in a bigger area than before. So that's a hard thing. So you have to get behind him every time with that. Like, you have to find him.
Oh my gosh. So Monster Hunter World Iceborne, that's been a big one. You two, you're in the end game now, aren't you?
Yes, me and Wibblesniff are. We're in the end game now, where we're at the Guiding Lands.
Oh, sounds fancy.
Yeah, it's literally a conglomerate. How do you say that word? Conglomerate. Yeah.
Conglomeration, if you're bringing things together from disparate parts.
Yeah, of all of the areas except for the Elder's Recess. Pretty much all of them.
Well, I was going to say Elder's Recess is probably the hardest one to converge into everything else.
Yeah, because of the lava and the upper parts, the crystal areas, and everything be too much. So you've got the forest, you got the Rotten Vale, and you've got the Coral Highlands and the Wildspire Wastes there. So
it sounds massive.
it is pretty big. It is pretty big.
So is it actually just all of those maps stitched together, or is it like we'll take up to this point and stitch it to up to that point where they make sense that they may cross over?
No, it's like the themes of those areas have come together. So like there's a desert area, there's a forest area, there's the Rotten Vale area, which is below, like it's below everything, and then there's the Coral Highlands, which is above everything. So it's a bit of a mishmash of things, but you can learn to navigate it quite well because there's a lot of like different areas you can climb or swing and things like that to get to different areas very quick, kind of thing.
So much spoodermanning.
Yeah, there's a lot of spoodermans. Right? But any enemy can turn up there, and there are some new enemies there as well.
Oh, that sounds good. I can't wait to get there.
It's really good. It's really fun. And it's like in expedition mode. So when you finish a quest, you don't just get transported straight back to Astera or Celiana. You can just go back to your camp, hand it in, and then go on another one. Go on another one straight
after quest after quest, hunt after hunt after hunt.
Yeah. And brilliant. You can level up the areas and everything. So then, like, if you hunt a monster in the forest, then you can upgrade the forest after a few times you've hunted something there, and new monsters will come there, like new monsters and old ones just at a higher level. So then,
you see, that sounds like a real proper end game grind. If you're looking for a game as a service to play sort of thing, that sounds like the exact sort of build that you want. Just upgrade the area, more enemies come, more challenging enemies. As you get better, they get better. And it's never really going to stop that cycle of loot grind.
You need the replayability, don't you, in those kind of games to have a need to come back and carry on playing, which I find a lot of those kind of RNG-based games, loot-based games, are sort of lacking nowadays. They sort of want you to get to the end and then just stick in one area and grind it out. It's just like, okay, I have paid quite a fair bit of money for you. I'd like you to give me just a little bit more. Not asking for something brand new, but just a bit more of what I've been enjoying.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we've in the UK, we've only paid 35 quid. For this entire new DLC. It's massive for 35 quid.
It feels as big as the original game to me.
It is. It might be even a little bit bigger, really, because...
Well, that end game sounds much bigger than what we had previously.
Yeah, and next month they're bringing out a new monster. I can't remember the name of it. Hold on, I'll figure it out in a sec.
Yeah, there's new monsters, new events monthly for this game. As far as end game goes, it's massive. I mean, but have you touched anything else in this last month, or has it all been Monster Hunter World Iceborne?
Me and Crash have been playing D&D for the first time.
That counts.
Well, it does. It counts in a way.
It's still a game. What have you been playing in the last month is the question, yes.
Yeah, we've been playing a lot of D&D, and I mean a lot of it.
A lot of D&D.
A lot of it. I now play D&D 3 times a week at night now.
Wow, and how much did you play prior to getting this game together with Crash?
0.
Now, I do think there is a story here that the ladies and gentlemen must hear about your first, shall we say, taste of D&D?
Would you like to start, Crash?
What, as in, how did we get into D&D? Or...
Oh, no, what happened within the first attempt?
Okay.
Oh, right, yeah. The first attempt of D&D was originally going to be a Nerdmigo's project, and it was probably actually going to be like this podcast is in terms of recorded. And then just sort of shiveled, and then we finally got stuff organised, ready to go, and then people started getting injured, and then
everybody broke themselves. Yeah,
everybody got broken. So we sort of just were like, I found an amazing Facebook group called, I think it's like Web D&D, something like that, which basically does like Wizards of the Coast Wednesday sessions. So I joined a campaign in that, and then they were like, we're still missing a player. So I was like, I know someone who'll play. So I got Cal from work. I was like, come on, let's do it. And then we sort of played a little bit, kind of got a bit stiffy. We lost our DM fairly quickly, because she was getting overwhelmed, looking for a new job and kind of such, which is understandable. So one of our players we were with decided to step up and start DMing, and then one day I was just like, I want to write a campaign. I want to actually write something completely homebrewed, completely original, as close as original as I could get, to being also true to the lore of what the Wizards of the Wizards, like they have a big tower and conglomerates of these people that run the world of D&D. The Wizards of the Coast, which is the company that created D&D, the original. And I just started writing, and then we got a bunch of other players, and we just can't seem to playing it. And we're big fans of Critical Role, and that's just incredible, and it's really inspiring to watch as a way of it's a weird release playing D&D. It's not a sort of it's not as nerdy as it's made out to be, like it used to be. Like the way that, for example, in one of the biggest pop culture shows to have hit the scene recently, in Stranger Things, the way they play in terms of they're in their mom's basement and they've got their hats on and they've got all the cloaks on and stuff. I mean, there's still a big part of that, and I'm not just like shaming anyone that does do that. I mean, you do you, boo boo. It's great. But playing it, we play with people who are up in Scotland, who are down in London, who are in York, who are all over the country, thanks to the marvelous wonders.
One major question about that game.
Okay.
How does everybody understand each other? Because I have put London and Scotland together in the past, and they look at one another completely gone out for the entire night, and then they turn to me afterwards like, what on earth did they say at any point through this evening?
That's where the beauty of acting comes into it, when they take on the role of their character.
They have to speak in a proper English accent.
Yeah. But it's been absolutely fantastic. It's a good release. It's really liberating, and it's a nice way to get creative juices flowing, even if you're not wanting to play, if you just want to DM. Everyone thinks that role playing is a big aspect of it, that you have to, speak a certain way and actually embody this thing, and that's not necessarily true. It's encouraged, but mainly just so you don't feel ostracized and you're included in the environment and the gaming world. But it's a really, really good creative release. There are literally no rules, but there's no rules when it comes to character design or stuff like that. You can be whatever you want to be. If you wanted to, as Dorrigan's original character was, that he worked in a coffee shop and was fed up with his job because of Karen, and then decided to walk out.
I still want to know what happened with Karen.
So do I. It's one of those unanswered questions. Like
when that actually comes to fruition, so when all of us broken people are no longer broken and able to sit down at a table for a few hours here and there to have this campaign go ahead, you will find out about Karen. I swear to you, you will find out about Karen.
I hope so, and look forward to it. But yeah, we've been playing.
So yeah, but the big thing I wanted to highlight about their first D&D, like this one has been all over Twitter. They have spoken about it to me at length. Their first attempt lasted all of an hour.
Wow.
Because an hour in, the healer decided to just, die, as you do. And healer.
That was our second attempt. That was in the second.
Was that our second campaign?
Yeah, I think that was the second one we did.
Yeah, when we TPK'd because our
healer shot a giant monster.
Yeah, that's like a challenge rating of 8. So it's the equivalent of having like leather armor and going up against Devil Pickle Enraged. It's kind of like that kind of like, armed with nothing but a stick and a pebble. There was literally no there was no coming back from it. I don't know. I tried to be like all heroic and self-sacrifice, and maybe the DM might have caught on and been like, okay, I'll let them leave now. But no, it was an absolute.
Then it summoned another one.
Yeah, there was 3 of them. There was these big giant bugs that have the same challenge rating. It was just, we died very, very quickly in our second session. But the thing is, we started that session at level 3. And
didn't. We were 1, remember?
No. Because there's the weird thing is we start at level 3, but the initial rule of the campaign is that you start at level 1.
Yeah.
And that was mind blowing to us, because how on God's name are you supposed to survive? We had 3 downs in our first session up against 1 captain. It was. I think it's much more of there's a large element of strategy in D&D as well, which is you don't seem to realize the strategy until you're balls deep in shit, basically. You sort of have to think.
To the world of role-playing, yeah. So myself this last month, I've not been playing a huge amount. As I alluded to in the last podcast, I came off my bike and injured my arms quite badly. Bit of an update on that for anybody who actually does care. I haven't done any lasting damage. It's just time now to heal the muscle shock. And then I'm going to be very weak once that healing has taken place. So it's exercise to get all of my strength back. So probably looking at another sort of 6 to 8 weeks on the road to recovery, but a lot better today than I was in the last podcast where I could barely move my arms. So that's all positive. In terms of what I've played, there's always going to be one that's on my list. I don't think it's ever going to matter what month, what year. Destiny 2. I didn't play it for a lot of the second year. Like many people, a lot of you content creators out there as well, I found that the content drops or the grind to get to the point where you could raid was too large for someone in a full-time job. And so I dropped off because there wasn't the sort of base level stuff that you could do. And then the pinnacle stuff and the raids, they were out of reach. And then Season of the Joker came around and I suddenly had 3 seasons worth of activities to do at all levels. And the grind had been changed. Patches had come in that had changed how hard it was to get up to power level. And suddenly I was in a position where it's like, hey, I can go and raid again. My favorite activity in that game. I can go and raid, just jump on LFG and take on whatever comes my way. So I've been playing a lot of Destiny 2. We're in the final season of Year 2 at the moment. We're in the final week of Year 2. And it's been a blast. I've played this season from the beginning. It's had 2 live events during it. It's had 2 exotic quests, which I've really enjoyed grinding through and getting the weapons for. And it's really starting to feel like that game that I adored around the era of The Taken King, with the big changes that are coming in the next month or so, well, in the next week when the patch hits. It's going to change it once more for the better, so I'm really looking forward to Shadowkeep. Alongside that, I've been playing Monster Hunter World, as we've already mentioned. I'm still working my way through the story because it's massive, as Digital Painter said, and it just takes time to get through those sorts of situations. So that's been my game list, really. There's not been much else going on. There's been a lot of Netflix and Amazon Prime for me, not being able to use my arms the way I'd like to. But that sort of sums up the section of what have you been playing in the last month. So, moving on. And I'm actually going to stop recording there whilst we get Cal back.
Oh, we lost.
So, next on the list, we had 2 conferences this month in the world of gaming, or mini conferences, I suppose we could call them. First one came through to us on the 4th of September, and it was Nintendo Direct. Now, this year, in my eyes, Nintendo have been absolutely smashing it. Every announcement they've made, every game that they've released has been high quality. So, as you can appreciate, there was a lot of expectation around this month's Nintendo Direct. So let's jump into it, and we will start with first thing that they mentioned, which was Animal Crossing New Horizons. Now, I'm not really a Nintendo player, and neither are either of you guys, are you?
Pokemon.
Yeah, that's about it, really.
It branched.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be a Nintendo player. I just don't have the money to purchase a Switch and all of the games that go with it. But Animal Crossing, it's always been one of those that I've never quite understood personally. I suppose it's the micromanagement of it that most people like, isn't it? And the fact that they've added in multiplayer with up to 8 people this time. I don't know what to think about it. It seems like more Animal Crossing, just with a couple of additional services.
It's what people want. It's what the Animal Crossing people wanted, though. They wanted a new Animal Crossing for a start. They wanted it for the Switch. They were teasing at it with the fact they introduced a famous NPC from Animal Crossing, can't remember her name, into Smash. So the fans have been wanting this Animal Crossing game for some time now, and the 8 multiplayer thing, I suppose, is just branching that horizon of being able to hang out in each other's villages. I've personally never seen the appeal of an Animal Crossing game. I have loads of friends that play it and loads of friends that are properly addicted to it. But I just never saw the appeal, personally.
No, I couldn't get into it at all. Because on 3DS one, when you had it, if you left it for like 2 days, you'd come back and there'd be like weeds and grass and new trees everywhere that you'd have to get rid of to be able to.
Sounds almost like Tamagotchi on a 3DS.
Yeah,
like the amount of care and time you've got to put into it.
Yeah. There is a lot of time you have to put into it. It gets a bit crazy. It's like, have you played Stardew Valley kind of thing?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but a bit more, not as, it is a little bit more relaxed, really. But some of the characters in it are just, well, they're just a bit dickish, really. I'll just say that. They're not like, they're like you want them to be your friend, and they'll be like, "Oh, do this for me, and I'll be your friend." And you're like, "Well, you're a dick, then, aren't you?"
That's not how friendships work, guys. I hate to say this.
It's a Peggy 3 game.
Oh,
the characters are dicks.
what you can do on it is, if you really don't like a character, you can make them move away by just being a dick. You can do that, and it's absolutely
you go outside wearing a white hood and burn a cross. What kind of video game is this?
I don't know what game you're playing, but it does not sound like what this 5-minute video Nintendo put up is showing. So moving swiftly on, one of the 2 huge announcements that they were making, and I do use that word with a lot of sarcasm. They're bringing Overwatch to the Switch.
Oh, God.
And I honestly feel it's way too little, way too late. If they wanted to bring Overwatch to the Switch, it's been out for 2 years now. It should have been a launch game.
It's come out. I think it's 3 now. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's personally, it's pointless. I mean, granted, you have Overwatch on the go, you can transport it around, but you need a strong enough Wi-Fi system in order to play it. So you're going to be playing it at home anyway.
Exactly.
They're bringing it. They want to bring in crossplay to it. They're as a massive, as the MMORPG guy and the the JRPG guy. They're wanting to bring crossplay to this. But the issue you have with it, and they've just brought it into Smite actually, which I've been playing a lot of again recently. And it's working well crossplay, but with Overwatch, the frame rate and the graphics and the memory capacity, everything comes into play. Every single frame, every single megabyte per second, whatever that you need to transpose onto the screen and link between players is so crucial to how much it can turn a game from winning and from losing. And bringing it to the Switch is just mind-bogglingly stupid to me. Absolutely crazy.
I mean, I've heard the crossplay argument previously, and I don't agree with it. It's as Digital Painter and I were saying before we started recording. With things like Destiny 2, for example, there is no way. Like, you could bring crossplay in for the PvE side of things. You could bring crossplay in on consoles for everything. but you could not have that PC community interacting with that console community.
No.
They would crush them.
It is such a game changer.
As Overwatch is marketed as an esport type game, you can't then do that. You can't throw console players in with PC players. It's not going to work.
And as an esport company that doesn't promote console players, for example, Hi-Rez as much as everyone gives Hi-Rez the blitz of they're basically can I copy your homework, but don't worry, I'll change a few things in terms of Smite for League of Legends, in terms of Paladins for Overwatch, in terms of Hand of Gods for Hearthstone, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They appreciate who plays on what console, on what format. If you play it on your phone or your tablet, they appreciate you for doing that. They'll have tournaments and competitions where they'll take the best of the best on their platforms and bring that forward. Blizzard don't do that, and will never do that, because they are predominantly a PC master race in terms of obviously World of Warcraft, StarCraft, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. They've always been a PC sort of family, but then they branched out and they brought in an esport. And if you're doing that, you need to maintain it across the board, not just balance it for PC. A lot of the people who used to make a lot of content on Overwatch when it first released really don't like the game anymore. And it's because it's balanced solely around the esport side of it. It's not balanced around the consumer who's actually paid quite a lot of money to get hold of half a game. And that's still my problem with it. They're asking full price once again on the Nintendo Switch for a game that has no story, no single player. It's been out for 3 or 4 years now. The console itself that they're bringing it out on has been out for 2 years, because that was late out in this cycle of consoles. And it's like, it seems too little too late for me for Overwatch, considering they've not added a new hero to it for a long while as well. It's never going to be the mighty League of Legends that they want it to be.
They introduce new heroes all the time. They do. The issue I have with new heroes being introduced into it is the game then becomes solely balanced around that person, and it's ridiculous the amount of times you see it. Actually, no, not even the amount of times. Every time they release a new hero, within the first month of patchwork, they go, well, this character's broken. We need to change it and change the whole game. So the servers come down, and the servers are on maintenance every fortnight, every 3 weeks. The servers are put under maintenance for balancing issues. Now, my opinion would be balance the fucking game first and then add new heroes to it, because it hasn't been balanced since the release of fucking Doomfist. It's never been perfectly balanced, and the game is purely based on composition. So the meta gets changed every week because people find compositions with little niche works that work together. But then it also comes into player skill. So I feel like they need to take a step back, Blizzard. Stop releasing new heroes, because that's all they ever get bombarded with in terms of their forum is, when's the next hero coming out? When's the next one? Who's the next one? All these fan theories, all these conspiracy theories. When's the next hero? When's the next hero? And Blizzard just churning it out, like what Assassin's Creed were doing with games. We're just every year churning out. That
actually leads nicely into the next point. They're getting 2 Assassin's Creed games on the Switch. We're getting Black Flag and Rogue. 2 phenomenal titles. I think they are 2 that should definitely be played if you've not played them previously. Even if you have played them previously, they'd be great to play on the go. It's just, for me, I mean, I'm a massive Assassin's Creed fan, as most people will know. I mean, I've got playthroughs of most of the Creed games on my YouTube channel. I think Assassin's Creed Rogue is one of the strongest stories in the entire series. To see things from the other side and see how corrupt the assassins became at one point is fantastic. It actually gives some levity to the fight that's ongoing. And Black Flag is actually one of my weakest entries. I find it so very forgettable most of the time. Now, don't get me wrong, it's brilliant fun, and I remember all the sea shanties and the hours and hours of sailing. I don't remember much of the Assassin's Creedness of it, though. So I think it's a positive release, and it's good to have AAA games of that caliber. Like Assassin's Creed 4 was the start of this current generation of home consoles. So Xbox One and PS4 got that right at the beginning, and it's now on Switch as well. To change that round for the size of screen and the controls available to the Switch, I think it's brilliant. And I hope that they're able to get future Assassin's Creed games on the Switch immediately, like have them launch alongside the same releases on the home consoles and PC. But to bring them out, I think it's great.
Yeah, I think it's amazing, but I don't know how well those games are going to run on the Switch. Is the problem?
Yeah,
because water is like is the hardest thing to get working on a console. So it's like takes up the most processing power in the entire game is water. So I don't know how well it's going to run, because like sometimes even when playing like starting titles like the Breath of the Wild and some other big games like even Skyrim on it don't run perfectly well. Like there will be frame rate issues in certain areas and things like that, which really is like, because Breath of the Wild was built for the Switch, it can run it fine. But when you go on like things like Skyrim on it, it doesn't run very well.
Let's be honest, Skyrim has never run well on anything. For such
that's true.
a popular game that has sold so well, I don't understand it, because it's had performance issues since day one. Like it couldn't run on PS3 for a year. People bought it and couldn't play it for 12 months. So that's not surprising. But we're talking about Ubisoft here. Ubisoft are one of those companies that embrace new hardware really, really well. And they will do everything they can to bring the best out of that hardware when they release a game on it. So I think it's going to be fine. I've got no problem with that. The rest, it seems like a very remastered catalogue. So you've got Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive, originally released in 2012. Star Wars Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, released God knows how long ago. There are a couple of new ones. You've got Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Divinity 2 Original Sin.
That'd be great.
There's a new Kirby game, Kirby Clash. There's also new characters for Smash Brothers. So they had Banjo-Kazooie on the day that it released, and Terry Bogard is coming in the future. Luigi's Mansion 3 is going to be a Halloween release. So
super excited.
Enough to get you through that. And then Deadly Premonition 2 and Origins, more remasters from sort of 2010. The only real big new thing, I mean, they've got remasters of SNES games coming as well. So SNES comes to Switch Online, which, again, great, don't get me wrong, but it's more old content coming forward. The big thing is Pokemon Sword and Shield. We know a lot about these games anyway. They've been spoken about since E3 this year. But the big reveal, and like for such an in-depth, long Nintendo Direct, for this to be the big reveal for Pokemon Sword and Shield, that you can go camping and make curry, I almost felt let down.
It's a bit underwhelming, isn't it?
Nintendo Direct. I don't know what I expected, because they brought all the big guns to their Nintendo Direct for E3. This is coming, that's coming, this is going to change. You're getting this balance, you're getting that balance, you're getting these characters for Smash. You've got a new Pokemon coming later this year. It's called Sword and Shield. Rumor mill starts at that point. They start releasing news. They'd been quiet since E3, really, so they needed to put something out there. They did. And I don't know. I think everybody was expecting E3 again, and maybe that was the problem. We expected more than they could deliver.
Yeah. It's a risky play, isn't it?
I do wonder though if like the curry situation like changes your Pokemon. Like if you feed it to your Pokemon, they get buffs and stuff like that. That would be a really good idea, kind of thing. Like we kind of do a Monster Hunter kind of thing where you eat before you battle. stuff like that. That would be
it's just like 100 different kinds of curry, and depending on what ingredients you use, that will dictate the type of curry that you get.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says once you fill up, so all you do, your character eats the curry and then heads out to interact with Pokemon. That's how it's showing at the moment. There may be more.
There will have to be a mechanical aspect to it. I mean, it'd probably be the same way it was with Poffins.
Yeah, I mean, with 100 different options, I would imagine the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Nintendo Direct. So, closing thoughts on Nintendo Direct. Crash, you first.
I feel the thing is with Nintendo, like they know they've got hard hitters. They know they'll strike out. Well, they'll hit home runs with games. So they know for a fact Luigi's Mansion 3 is gonna sell. It is a fantastic game since the first one. It's a fantastic character. The Mario series in itself is just flawless across the board. It's just they create great titles off one character, which is great. In regards to the Assassin's Creed, I think that using a very fan popular game that I agree with you in the sense of I can remember the mechanics of the game, but not a single part of the actual story in my mind. I can't actually place it. But it's a fan popular game, and so is Rogue. So it's a nice way to test the water, and I do think they'll bring other ones down to put in there and probably do future releases. But yeah, Nintendo they know how to sell, and they know what sells regardless of. They show someone eating curry for 50 minutes, and at the end slap a Pokemon logo on it. You'll go, oh my god, I can't wait. It's a Pokemon. It's fantastic.
So there you go. Crash's thoughts. Eat curry, slap a Pokemon logo on it, sales galore.
Exactly.
Digital Painter, your thoughts on Nintendo Direct?
The most thing I'm most excited about is the Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition coming out, because I played that when I was a kid on my Wii, and it had some of the best story, like nearly Final Fantasy VII levels of story in it, which is quite high. And the mechanics for it on the Wii were absolutely shocking, but coming to a better console system, I think it'd be much better than the motion tracking stuff and everything. It'd be much better. I am extremely worried about Pokemon Sword and Shield though, because we have seen a bit of gameplay, but the graphics don't look great. I will say that. Like,
yeah, okay.
And everything.
So,
it just looked great.
My closing thoughts on it. It was needed. There'd been no communication from Nintendo since E3. Not in this manner anyhow, so I fully agree with the Nintendo Direct at this point. I feel the announcements were all solid, but I think people were expecting too much, myself included. So tempering my own thoughts in hindsight, really good Nintendo Direct. So the other gaming conference that came out this month was from Sony. We had a State of Play, and that was towards the end of the month with some big reveals in that one. So, Crash, did you watch the State of Play?
I didn't, unfortunately. I had company round at the time, which isn't a hindrance. I want you to come round more. It's not. Yeah.
She's in the room.
Yeah, she was there, and I was like, please stay. I didn't, but I knew what I was expecting. And the only thing I cared about was announced, was a release date, was a trailer, and just roll on. The moment The Last of Us 2 comes out.
Shall we go in reverse then to what the State of Play did? Because the State of Play had a load of really good indie games, really good exclusive things coming. Unveiled a new Death Stranding PS4 Pro, which actually looks really nice. I love the sort of see-through yellow controller. But as you say, the big thing that everybody tuned in for was The Last of Us 2. And that sort of sums it up. I have found it much more difficult as I've got older, as this year has progressed as well, to get hyped about new games, about new hardware, about new movies, TV shows. And my days, that one trailer and that one reveal at the end of Joel coming into the fray as well. Do you really think I'd let you do this on your own? The emotion in that story trailer to tell us why she's on this killing spree. It's about terrible people doing terrible things in a terrible world, is the way that Neil Druckmann has described it. And if it's half as good as The Last of Us, it's going to be Game of the Year.
Yeah.
No doubt. It's most likely going to be Game of the Decade, probably. Most likely.
Most people, The Last of Us, the original, was Game of the Generation. It blew everything from the PS3, Xbox 360, Wii U, and Wii U era out of the water. Nothing came close, not even the seminal Uncharted 2.
No,
and I think that's quite right. It was unlike anything else out there. It was visceral. Killing people felt wrong, as it should do. It shouldn't be so easy and glorified as it is in the likes of things such as Call of Duty and Battlefield and such. It should be a problem taking a life. There's very few games that manage to pull that across. Two that spring to mind are The Last of Us and Spec Ops: The Line. Yeah. Taking lives in those two games changed your character, changed you as a player, changed the way you approached situations. So I think if they can recapture that feeling, that shock of never having done this before, it will be a phenomenal release. And it coming out near my birthday is just a major bonus.
I think touching on the hard to kill, you kind of allured into that in the sense of, in the first, like, again, the game's been out for however long. If you haven't played it, then I don't care about spoilers. If you haven't played the first one, I mean, it's been out long enough now. I think we're out the window. Instead of giving names and stuff, you're introduced to loss very, very early on into the first game. You're introduced into this world of it is dog eat dog.
Yeah,
it's absolutely horrific. You're at a lovely home environment, and then all of a sudden it's up in smoke, and you're running for your life, and then you believe you've got to the end, and then something even more drastic happens to you, and then you're already burdened with pain and sorrow for Joel, and then you go on and you meet another young girl who you then who's very naive, and I think that's how you got that emotional attachment in the first game, was that it was naivety that made you feel bad because you don't want this poor girl that's trying her hardest to survive and to make you sort of move on with your life as a father that's lost everything. With this next game, I think it's going to be very much the reverse. It's going to be now Ellie killing people as Ellie. I don't think is going to be that difficult, considering what we learned from the first trailer, considering her now young adult life. I think killing people as Ellie is going to be very, very easy to do if the narrative is there for that to happen.
I think the people side is going to be easy, yes.
If they can make you hate that enemy, you will fucking kill them. If you can hate them that much, you will murder them. And I think Joel's going to be the sort of the anti-Ellie as it was in the first one, of trying to hold her back. Or even worse, probably make him an enabler and actually...
Yeah, and I see what you're saying. It depends on the writers team. Like, it's an incredibly skilled team at Naughty Dog. They have written some of the greatest stories of gaming history. Mm-hmm. I think, in my eyes, the only person who comes close in terms of that level of storytelling, even now, even after we've had amazing games such as God of War and Spider-Man PS4 come out in the last 12 to 18 months, the only person who could tell stories that are that emotional, that engaging, and that sucker punching is Hideo Kojima. And we're getting a game from him in a month's time as well. So, anybody who owns a PlayStation, be prepared for depression soon.
Get some
I saw an article.
Also, to think that Ellie grew up in this world as well.
Yeah, so, that's the difference.
So, yeah.
But she's always had that kind edge, even in this rough world, even in the first one. She was born to it. She's known it since birth, but she was kind with it. And I saw an article the other day, which I think will make us possibly hate Ellie by the end of the game, is you may have to kill a lot of dogs as Ellie.
Yeah. But Neil did post a reply tweet to that saying, if you so choose to. So I reckon the dog encounters are going to be very much, as dogs generally are in games, are a stealth element. So don't alert the dogs. You won't have to kill the dogs.
Well, I suppose so, yeah.
But we kill monsters in Monster Hunter, and it's still
some of them are quite cute and what
it's
have
just
you.
Something, it's just something of it being labeled a dog, isn't it? That makes you out to be a monster whenever you killed a dog.
Exactly.
It was going to kill me, but you killed a dog, man.
Everybody that's played The Division has killed a dog at one point.
Oh yeah.
No.
At one point.
No, I refused. I let.
Oh, the street dogs.
The street dogs. Yeah. There's like 20 million of them, and you're like,
you can't help it. You just sort of look at it and go, I'm never going to do this in real life. I might as well just, just give it a little.
Just the one.
Come here,
there were other games announced during that, all coming out in 2020. It doesn't look like we're getting any major PlayStation releases during 2019 now. It's just the cross-party stuff. Was there anything that jumped out at you guys that really took your fancy?
The Humanity game. Do you remember seeing that? With all the people running and stuff and running into each other and different scenarios going on. I think that is mainly a tech demo on the engine, it looks like to me, with the amount of people they have in it, and they're all different in slightly different ways. I think that's caught to me because it looks more like a tech demo as to what the PlayStation is capable of, and even if they even upscale it for the PlayStation 5, if it goes to that, like it'll show as a tech demo for it, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what
the thing that sort of jumped out to me, it was quite nice to get Civ 6, but it was that, I can't remember the name of it, the devil game. Where you go to hell and you can find your way out. There's a loophole or something. What was it called now?
A remake, or is it a brand new?
It's a brand new After Party. That's what it's called.
After Party, yeah. You got a drinking game with the devil, and that looks really cool.
Yeah, it's my sort of weird. Like when the PlayStation 4 first released, and we got a load of indie games on PS Plus, I played most of them. So Contrast sticks in my mind heavily. That was a stupendously beautiful, artsy game with a powerful story behind it, as it was Stick It to the Man, actually, both dealing with like abuse and mental health and stuff like that in a brilliant backdrop. And I feel After Party is in that sort of vein of game. So it's indie, it's interesting, but it's going to have a much deeper message as you work through it. It's going to start off really fun and silly and have these great mechanics, but later on it's going to be, oh my days, where did this twist come from, sort of thing.
I feel the same. Yeah, you do want that. I feel the same with did you see Arise, A Simple Story?
Yes. The new Journey-esque kind of game of just a simple
I got very Journey feels from that, yeah.
It's a beautiful game. I can't look at it properly. It seems like it just looks absolutely astounding to me. Like the art style for it and everything just looks stupendous to me. And the giant sunflower scene as well, that you can jump on all of them. It's like, whoa.
Well, those indie games have always done well. Journey was an absolute smash hit, won countless awards for a game that is in essence just pressing left on a stick and moving.
Well, yeah, you just walk.
Yeah.
There's not much else that you do.
What was that? We got one for free, didn't we? What was that ribbon-based game? He was sort of like this ballet dancer that had a red ribbon scarf on, and that was visually beautiful to play. Same with
Was that the Unfinished Swan?
Something like that, I'm not sure. There was also the puzzle game, things like The Traveller or something like that, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Where you went around. It's just games like that where it's like you don't have to be necessarily emotionally or socially invested in it. It's just a nice way of, you know what, I've got a couple of hours to kill. Pick up the controller, sit down, maybe even play some different music in the background, just and just play a game. Just play through a game without worrying about being, oh, that's a difficult bit, or, oh, I'm going to be crying my eyes out because of shooting a dog and all this kind of stuff. Just a nice, relaxing Sunday. It's a Sunday afternoon game. That's how I vision it. Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, sort of like your DreamWorks Sunday afternoon movie.
Yeah, exactly. You sit down and you watch Shark Tale. You sit down and you just play this. I don't know anyone that actually sits down and goes, "Should we watch Shark Tale?"
Loads of people, mate. They're out there. So, state of play, final thoughts. Crash.
Give me The Last of Us. Give me it now.
Digital Painter.
I'm just so interested in the indie games. I really want to play them just right now as well.
So, bring it down to 3 words: hype, intrigue, want.
Yep.
I think that sort of sums it up quite well, don't you?
Yeah.
There's so much want whenever Sony comes.
Yeah.
Think about
So,
Spider-Man.
as many of you have probably noticed listening, September has been chock-a-block. So this is going to be a bit of a bumper edition of the Nerdmigos podcast because we're already pushing the hour mark as we speak. And we haven't even touched on any of the tech reviews, announcements and such yet. So we're going to start with the big one, the one that pretty much everybody tunes in for in September, whether it is to take the mick out of it, belittle it, to sing its praises, or just because they're interested. The new iPhone, the iPhone 11, iPhone 11 Plus or Pro, and iPhone 11 Pro XS. There's a few different names out there for this phone. It was announced as part of a rather large announcement stream. They went over all sorts. Apple Arcade, a $4.99 subscription service. So for $4.99 a month, you get access to any game that is in the arcade section of the App Store. No need to purchase, just download and play. They also announced Apple TV for $6.99 per month. If you buy any Apple product from September on, brand new, you will get a year worth of Apple TV inclusive. They mentioned huge names like Jennifer Aniston and Jason Momoa as having shows on this platform. They also went into their new A12 or A13, whatever number they're on now, Bionic chip, the camera setups, the new Apple Watch, and finally came to the devices themselves. Now, anybody who actually cares about these sorts of things has already looked into the specifications, they've looked into the design and such, and we've got to give our take on it because we are the Nerdmigos. Anything that enters into the realm of geek, we give our take on. And the only real take I've got is that is one butt ugly phone.
It is.
It is vile. It is.
I don't like the look of it.
No.
I mean, I love the screen resolution quality, the 60 frames per second, all that stuff, and I like the cameras, but it just looks awful. I just don't like the look of it.
For me, it's the first time in years an Apple device has been announced and I haven't gone, what are you doing? Because since Mr. Jobs passed, the iPhone has been copying everybody else. They've no longer been the forefront of technology. They've been the forefront of price. The moment they've changed the price, the industry's changed the price. But they haven't been the forefront of technology. And I wouldn't say they were on this announcement, on this device. The Pro Max, whatever it's called, the top end one, that is a phenomenal bit of kit. Like the battery that you're getting in there, how long it lasts, the chipset, processing power, all this sort of stuff. It's finally on par with its competition. It's a brilliant phone. The hardware is finally something that Apple can shout about. The battery life is finally something Apple can shout about. But they took all of this, and where in the past they've been past masters at making a beautiful device, if we ignore that forsaken notch that they put in every screen, they've always made beautiful phones. And then suddenly, when they get the hardware on point, they've got this I don't even know how to describe it. Like fidget spinner, Phillips head shaver. Other people have come up with other names for it, slightly less polite, that I'm not going to repeat on a podcast. But it's like, what made you think that was a good idea?
The only thing I can think that puts a tiny bit of logic into why they've designed it, it's got 3 cameras. Okay, so does the Huawei has one of the Pro, doesn't it? Has 3 cameras on it.
Huawei's have had 3 cameras since January 2018. So when the P20 Pro came out, that had a 3-camera setup. But the 3 cameras are in a line, same as on the
position linear. The position linear, exactly. The only thing I can think of is that what they've tried to do is they've tried to add a little bit of nicheness to it, a little bit of say hipster, antique, old kind of filmography cameras from the early MGM film productions, with the cameras with these big, huge 3-lens, like what Willy Wonka used to make Mike TV into a tiny little bit of stuff in the terrible Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Those 3-lens cameras. That's the only thing I can think of, is that they've gone, we've got 3 cameras with a cutting edge of technology. What was the cutting edge of technology?
Well, let's give it a bit of a retro feel, maybe.
Yeah, give it a retro feel. But they haven't done that for the rest of the phone. They've still got that horrible iPhone 5C color backing to it that's just always been vile, and iPhones are always going to be a 2-year phone.
Yeah, I'm not too fussed about the colors. The colors themselves are okay, and let's be honest, it's an iPhone. They're the most fragile thing on the planet, so you're going to slap a case on that the moment you get the thing.
Yeah.
So whatever color you buy, it doesn't matter, because you buy the case that you like. End of the day, there's something about, it's not just the aesthetics, it's the way it looks in someone's hand. I've watched lots of YouTubers, lots of content creators handling this phone, and it doesn't look comfortable. And it's not through the size of it, because don't get me wrong, it is a big phone, the Max one. The Pro isn't small, and the standard iPhone 11, you can't exactly call it a small device, a one-handed device, but it's not ginormous. But that Pro looks like the edges aren't designed for a human hand, almost, from what I've seen people using it for. And it's just, I think my idea of a beautiful aesthetic is a useful aesthetic. So I love a coat that fits the person perfectly, but can turn wind and rain and stuff like that. To me, that is a beautiful coat, whereas a coat that is just there to look good is ugly because it's pointless. And I think I transfer that across to like cars and boats and technology as well. And I think that's my problem with the iPhone 11 range. They don't look beautiful because they don't look properly useful. They don't look properly ergonomic.
Yeah, they don't look like there's a purpose to the phone. It seems like all iPhones want you to do. To be fair, it's the modern day technologies. They want you to capture great moments that you experience in your life. They want you to have that memory kind of aspect for it, which is why their phones have crap memory, and they charge you extortionate amounts to go above 16 gig on a phone memory, which gets taken up by updates of about 15 gig of an update.
I mean, you're talking 4 years ago there. Most of these phones are shipping with a minimum 128 gigabyte included.
Yeah, well, I haven't had an iPhone since I was in college, so that's at least nearly 6 years ago. I got an Android very much soon afterwards, and now I have my Huawei. It's just I don't see the appeal of why you'd want it. If you want something that you want to do, I mean, great filming on the go, yeah. If you're that kind of, I think they're just genius marketers, Apple, in the sense of that. Companies like Sony, like Huawei, I mean, granted the amount of controversy Huawei's been in recently, but all that kind of stuff, all those other phones that aren't produced by Apple are made for people to use, whereas Apple seems to sell it for the people that will promote it, for people that will be for famous people that will be seen with it, for YouTubers that will be seen with it, for young idols that will be seen with it.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head there, and you've touched on two other aspects about two other things announced this month. So Huawei was one of them, and phones made for people was another, which is where OnePlus comes in, both of whom had conferences in September as well, and are bringing new phones to the table. And maybe that's why I'm so disappointed in the looks of the iPhone, because when the Mate 30 and the Mate 30 Pro were announced later in September than the iPhone was announced, they looked exactly as everybody had said, all the renders that had been leaked and what have you. And these leaks have been around for 6, 7, 8 months, enough time to make a decision change on an aesthetic point on technology, on how you would change it to make it look better. And I think that's why I was disappointed with the iPhone, because when first leaked renders of the OnePlus 7T came about, it had a big step for that circular camera housing. Whereas now it's a nice smooth one like is on the Huawei Mate 30 and Mate 30 Pro. And they made that adjustment because people's reactions to the renders that were leaked weren't favourable. And no one liked the iPhone renders, yet they just went ahead with it anyway.
Yeah.
What do you think, Digital Painter?
Aesthetically, it isn't. It's not pleasing in general. I just don't like them at all, really. I've never been an iPhone user, really, is the thing. The gaming aspect to them seems pretty good for really when I look at it, like the chip's ability for it to hold everything and be able to run all of the things for it. They've got a game on here that looks actually quite detailed and quite well rounded. So I don't know whether it's going to work that well for them, but they're going to make loads of money. They're Apple. They just because of the brand name, the phone's going to make loads of money for them anyway.
Exactly.
Like I've got plenty of friends that have already booked, nearly already ready to upgrade straight away.
Yeah,
the next
and
one.
There's people exactly the same that I know. My father-in-law, for example, on one side. But granted, he's gone from an iPhone 6 to an iPhone 11, so that's going to be a massive upgrade for him. And he was only waiting for that to come out so he could have the latest one. Like, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. But there's folk who've got last year's XS and XS Max who are saying, oh, yeah, I'll get the 11, definitely. And it's like, but there's very few differences between them. What's making you want to upgrade? But I could say exactly the same to Wibblesniff, where he went from the P20 Pro to the P30 Pro. There's only a year's difference between them, and the only big thing is that camera array on the P30 Pro with the 50 times zoom. Other than that, they're almost identical phones. I went from the Sony Xperia X to the Sony Xperia XZ2. Again, only 12 months between those phones. Now, don't get me wrong, massive differences on the internals. The X was a mid-range phone. The XZ2 was top range. It had the same stats as the S9 and the P20 Pro when it came out, but it was about 300 quid cheaper, which is why I went for that one. But I'm 18 months down the line with that device, and literally nothing's making me want to upgrade to it. So there were two other phones announced this month, which are generally the phones that make everybody sit up and pay attention. And they are the next phone from Huawei and the next phone from OnePlus, as we've already touched on. Now, the Huawei Mate 30 Pro is an utter beast of a device. They have put every single bit of technology that they possibly can in that phone, and they are charging you for it. The only downside is we don't have any release dates for the UK, or for Europe, or for the US, or for Japan, or Australia, or New Zealand, or Africa.
Just
the
everywhere.
only place we have any release dates for is China. And that comes down to the Trump administration and their ridiculous ban on Huawei products. Now, the reason I say ridiculous is I work within the industry. I have people looking over the security of these devices and their equipment for use within the networks, and there is literally nothing wrong with them. There are no problems, no controversy whatsoever. They are perfectly safe. MI6 or 5 or whichever one it is, whichever one our security branches say there are no concerns with any Huawei equipment. They cannot spy on us using them. But because Donald Trump is a paranoid schoolchild, apparently, and still believes that there is a problem, we don't get Huawei services, which means Huawei are a bit reticent about releasing these devices in countries where Google services are so inbuilt into society, like here. If I'm traveling anywhere, I will use Google Maps. If I need to know something, I will shout at my phone, "Okay, Google." And it's just binged at me.
I knew it.
And so on and so
Apologies.
forth.
I don't understand.
Sorry, quiet, Google. So it's so well ingrained within our society to use these Google services. If you need to search for something, you need to know something, you even use the word Google as a verb. I'm going to go Google it. It's like, I can see why they're reticent at it, but it is so easy to install Google services on Android. It's an open source software. You just need to go to a little online download the Google Play Store, and away you go. You've got all of your Google services ready and raring to go on the device. So for me, it's not really a problem, but I can understand if you've got those not so tech-savvy folk out there, those people who don't care about screen resolution, about chipset power, who want something that looks good and does everything they want it to. If they don't have the Google Play Store when they load it up, Huawei are going to be in trouble. People aren't going to buy that phone, especially not at over £1,000.
Yeah. Well, I think if they do bring it over here, they will put the Google Play Store onto it.
Problem is they can't because of the trade ban. Unless that is lifted, unless the Trump administration turns around and says, yes, you can start trading with Huawei again. Because Google are an American company, they are not allowed to trade with Huawei in any way. And that includes giving them the latest live services, latest Android updates, and so on and so forth.
Mm.
So they wouldn't be able to launch it with the Google services on the phone.
Yeah,
it's
I
not
think
really worth the buy then until something like that comes around. Regardless of how well the device is, when we rely on such an internet provider and source, you'd go for something else.
I mean, personally, I'd snap that phone up in a heartbeat. I could get that Google Play Store on it in less than 5 minutes. And that's including setting the phone up from scratch. So I could set the phone up from scratch, log into my Google account, all that sort of stuff, get it booted up, download Google Play Store from an internet source, download all the Google services I want. In 5 minutes, I'm up and running with a full Android phone. But I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. You guys who are tech savvy, you've both just turned around and said, if it's not coming pre-installed with those services, it's not worth the buy. And when there's people a lot less savvy than you guys, I could see Huawei's reticence to release it anywhere other than China.
I don't think we'll see. I think really we'll see Huawei stuff in the Western world or anywhere else really till either the ban is gone or when Trump is gone. Pretty much, that's the only time I'll see that happening.
Essentially, whichever comes first, yeah.
Yeah, whichever comes first, really. Like, most likely, Trump going will probably come first at this rate.
It depends. I mean, they're on the campaign trail, so we'll see what happens over there. But the other big announcement was OnePlus. They've brought out their 6-monthly upgrade to this year's flagship. So they brought out the OnePlus 7 and the OnePlus 7 Pro earlier this year. And this week, they've just announced the OnePlus 7T. Now, the 7T is the advancement on the OnePlus 7. There doesn't appear to be at this moment in time a OnePlus 7 Pro with a T after it. So I'm not sure personally what this phone is doing. When you look at the stats of it, it is a massive step up over the OnePlus 7. It's got that 90 hertz screen. It's got a very small teardrop notch that just houses that front-facing camera. It's an OLED screen as well, so you can get the true blackest blacks that turn the screen off and save energy. It's got the latest Qualcomm 855 Plus processor, all the mod cons, all the stuff you'd want to hear from an upgrade. But when you compare that to the OnePlus 7 Pro, which came out 6 months ago, the only thing it's doing better is the processor. And because we've now got a new OnePlus phone, the two older ones are coming down in price. So I'm a little bit confused as to why they've done this, because they've sort of shot themselves in the foot. Because anybody with any sense when looking at a spec sheet is going to turn around and buy the OnePlus 7 Pro from earlier in the year.
The T is on the back very ugly. It's got a very Mike Wazowski feel to it. It's not. It's really not. It looks like my Fire Stick controller. The camera design. It's protruding as well. It's not flat.
I mean, you're hard pressed nowadays to find a camera array on a premium phone that isn't protruding. The only way
I get like if there's like a millimeter
camera.
If there's like, for example, my Hawaii one protrudes, but it protrudes the same way in which a lock button does on a phone as well. Whereas this thing looks like, you know, those suction cup things people are getting on the backs of their phone as sort of a holding stand, and you can just rest it up kind of thing. It looks a bit like that. Yeah, I mean, I guess in terms of software, I imagine it's, as OnePlus is, it's probably fantastic and does everything you want it to do and is quick and responsive, good charge times, all that kind of stuff. But you're gonna look like a right tosser holding it. I'm like, same with the iPhone. You're just gonna look like a dobber. That's probably my only issue. I know it's an aesthetic thing and it's not something you should really feel like, oh, looks or all this kind of thing. But kids will want it, and kids will get bullied to hell in school for having phones like that. I got bullied for having a flip up Nokia when I was in school because it flipped up and everyone else had Blackberries, and it was just like,
yeah,
it's one of those things. It's just all personally from a phone, all I want is something its processor's fast and responsive. It has a decent memory, and for the stuff that I want to do, so for the vlogging and for the capture stuff, I want it to film good and have a good enough memory to hold on to it. All fancy stuff. As long as it runs quickly, it doesn't freeze up, and it has a decent battery life of, like, I don't know, a reactor core. It'll be a good phone.
I mean, it's going to be a good phone. It's just, if I were to speak with my money, and I was holding off on looking at maybe buying a new phone because OnePlus were coming with this incremental upgrade. And normally their T series is the one where they go a bit crazy and throw everything at it that they left out of the sensible version earlier in the year. And they just haven't. But I think it's probably because the OnePlus 7 finally broke big. Everybody knew it. It wasn't one of these makes and models that, what's a OnePlus? So to play it safe now, it sort of makes sense from a marketing perspective. But I wish there was more to it, that's all. I felt slightly deflated by hearing what was in that phone in the announcement. You've been quite quiet on this one, Digital Painter. Any thoughts?
It doesn't have a headphone jack. I'm an old man. I need a headphone jack because I can't always, like, I'm thinking about the lower income people who can't afford wireless headphones all the time.
Well, OnePlus are pretty good on that front. They will ship you an adapter. So in the retail box that comes with it, they give you a USB-C to 3.5mm adapter. So you can still have your wired headphones in there.
Oh, that's right. It didn't say that on here. Sorry. That's all right. But it does confuse me that they don't have wireless charging for some reason as well, as a modern phone generally has wireless charging.
You've got to think of how expensive such a thing is.
True.
Like, to put wireless charging, I've got that on my XZ2. Sony did not do that for the Xperia 1 and the Xperia 5 that they have announced this year.
Yeah,
Much more up-to-date phones, but they don't have wireless charging. And the reason behind that is to fit it in, the coils that need to go in there, the cooling technology to keep the phone cool because it will push charge both ways as well. It's very expensive. There's a lot of wiring that goes into that sort of thing, a lot of magnetic fields and all sorts of other stuff. OnePlus has always been about bringing a premium device at a mid-range price point to keep that sort of price point. So they are pushing it up. They're going towards the £700 mark for their devices now. But when you consider that that is doing almost the same as that £1,000 Galaxy S10 Plus, it just doesn't have the wireless charging. I mean, it's not that hard to plug in a USB-C cable. You don't even have to look at it. It can go in either way up. Leaving things like that out is no problem. And whilst the phone is water resistant, they don't have the official rating because they have to pay for that, and that pushes the charge of the phone up again. So I see why OnePlus operate in that particular way, and I personally have no problems with it.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's going to be good.
Most smartphones are water resistant anyway in terms of rain. I mean, I don't see where else your phone is having. If you have to have a bath with your phone, and it's like in your hand and it's not on a safe dry surface, then you shouldn't have the money to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Oh, you poor man. So I've had waterproof phones since the very first. Since Sony announced it on the Xperia 2 back in 2013, I have had a waterproof phone.
A waterproof phone. Understand, but you're buying that for its purpose to be waterproof. Whether or not your sole reason for buying it was because it was waterproof.
Yeah.
What situation?
And that was because I windsurf and sail.
And I get that.
You start using it in other ways as well. So that whole thing of using it in the bath, because my phone is waterproof, I use it in the bath. I watch videos on it whilst I'm in the bath, or I will read the news in the shower in the morning. I will catch up with the world at whole in wet conditions. It sits in my pocket when I cycle to work in the absolute pouring rain, and I don't have to worry about trying to keep it dry. It just does its job. You start utilizing it in many other ways. The only downside is if you get a bit drunk, you do start throwing it in pints as well. That doesn't work as well.
But where does that limit end? Where does it go? Oh, this phone is also fireproof. So while you're baking your casserole, you can put the timer in the oven with it. Or you've drunkenly thrown your phone into Mount Vesuvius. Oh, but don't worry, because with the new Huawei Plus super fireproof water damaged amazing machine, that'll be fine. It's great to have it waterproof. Okay, yeah. It's in terms of your cycling story, yeah. If I'm gone for a long walk and it's pissing it down with rain, or someone inconsiderate driver drives past a puddle and absolutely drenches me, it's nice to have that kind of
peace of mind,
yeah. Security to be able to be like, okay, I'm pissing wet. My phone's okay. That's all right then. That's no issue at all. In terms of reading the news in the bath or reading it in the shower, if you can do that, you can do that. Great. But it's like you're in the shower for 10 minutes and get out. Read it at work. Read it at home. Read it watching videos. Yeah, I get where you're coming through. I quite like to watch videos while I'm in the bath, but I've got units around me where I can put my phone. It's nowhere near water.
Yeah, I suppose. It's one of those things. If you've got it, you use it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If you've got it, you use it. But I don't think it should be a selling point for a phone.
And to be fair, no longer is it a selling point. On the Xperia phones, when it first came out, of course they were the first to do it. Yeah. It was the big differentiating factor. It was the selling point. And
no one else was doing it.
Yeah, but now that everybody's doing it, every premium flagship phone comes with waterproofness. No one sort of mentions it. It's just there as a cliff note. Yeah, it does have IP68 water and dust resistance. Great. Cool.
Great. That's fine. That's what it should be. That's what you should be looking at phones to be now.
Yeah. Closing thoughts on the new iPhone, the new Huawei Mate 30 Pro, and the OnePlus 7T.
In order, shite, excitable, and fresh.
Digital Painter?
With the iPhone, I'm disappointed. The Huawei, I'm also very excited. I might actually get that. And the OneNote, I'm all right with it. I'm okay. It looks good, but I don't know. There is one thing I really want phones to do eventually in the future is add in like a 15-volt battery when it becomes small enough. When it becomes small enough, obviously, but it's for faster charging and higher battery containing.
Speed charging, that's not really a question anymore. You've got your 55 watt, 45 watt fast charging. You can get phones from 0 to 70 in under 30 minutes. All three that we've mentioned there will charge to full in under an hour. So speed charging is not really a problem. Longevity of the batteries for me is what I want to see, and I'm not even per se talking about within a day. Most phones will give you a day's usage.
With a 15-volt battery, the lastingness of the battery will increase by tremendous volumes as well. And plus, with the charging thing, when you use like a 15-volt cable into it, it will charge literally in like 5 minutes. Like, it will take no time at all. It will, because it will completely change the game. That's my only thing with phones now, is the battery life and the charging capabilities. That's my only thing. I mean, we have improved a lot, so it's no problem with it. It's just the life. The battery life is my only thing now.
So my closing thoughts then: the new iPhone, love the hardware, hate the aesthetic. The Mate 30 Pro, give it me. The OnePlus 7T, just buy the OnePlus 7 Pro. That's my honest feels with it. So, as we said earlier, September has been massive. This is a bumper edition of the Nerdmigos podcast. I'm dreadfully sorry that we're running into the hour and a half spectrum for you now, folks, but bear with us. This is the last thing that we're going to be covering. Start of the month, the biggest electronics show in Europe. IFA was held in Berlin. Lots and lots and lots was announced. Everything from the JBL Pulse 4 Bluetooth speaker to the LG Signature Series OLED TVs, and that's a rollable one that they announced there, or brought more information to the fore for. Sony brought their new super duper wireless headphones with a new audio build. I think they call it 360, so that they build the audio to sound like it's above you, below you, and in different positions around you. They can place it wherever they want in a sphere to make that one sound great. Sonos Move, so another Bluetooth speaker. Razer Blade Stealth, so that's a Razer device. Audio Technica brought wireless earbuds and turntables along. It's nice to see turntables getting a bit of limelight again. Vinyls definitely had a bit of a resurgence, but we never had people sort of supplying new turntables for them. So I'm very glad to see that one. There were more phones announced here. Nokia brought two new devices, the 6.2 and the 7.2. Sony brought their compact series back in the form of the Xperia 5 this year, because they've had the Xperia 1 as their flagship, the Xperia 10 as their entry level, and the Xperia 5 is more their compact flagship phone, so it's halfway between the two in terms of size and power. LG brought a new phone, the G8X ThinQ. Is it just me, or are phones getting more and more sillily named?
Yeah.
Oh god, yeah.
At least we're not doing car things and just naming them after animals, because, to be fair, that'd be quite cool. I'm
actually fine with that. Like, I was saying it today whilst I was heading off to a hospital appointment. Like, a Vauxhall Adam came past me, and it's like, that's an Adam. Adam, yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, bit of a silly name. What do you drive? Oh, I drive an Adam. Sounds a bit silly, But the other person, I drive a 320i GLSX. What on earth is one of those? You know what an Adam is. Everybody knows what an Adam is. A 320i GSLX. I personally know that's a BMW. I know that's a BMW with an injection engine and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But your average consumer, I drive a 320i GSLX. What? What's one of those? And it boils down to the make that you drive at that point. It's no longer, what do you drive? I drive a Pontiac Trans Am, or I drive a Holden Commodore. I drive a Firebird. I drive a Falcon. There's none of these cool names for cars. Phones are going the same way, like a G8X Thing Q.
What does the Q stand for? I don't know.
Exactly, yeah. So Aoife brought loads. For me, the main things that stood out there were Sony's wireless headphones with that 360 sound. I want to hear that. I want to know what that sounds like. I can't afford those headphones. They're nearly $1,000's worth of headphone.
Yeah, they are.
But I want to hear it. I want to hear what that 360-degree sound is. I want to hear this concert-like noise above me and below me. I want to know what that's like. I think that could be the next big thing. We haven't had any real audio advancements since sort of like Dolby Digital, really, 7.1. Yeah. That was getting on for 10 years ago. It feels like it's time for an audio advancement, especially when it comes to just listening to music. And I think that whole 360 side of things might be the next big thing if it can be brought down to the masses.
I don't know about the strap around your neck thing and the two protruding bits there. I know that they house the battery and the Bluetooth system for it, but I don't know about them really, because it looks a bit if you're walking down town with that, it just puts kind of a target on you. It looks like it's not very concealed thing.
Not really, because most people wear that. If you look at anybody running through a park, most runners will wear headphones such as that. So the WF-1000, blah, blah, yeah, it's built for runners sort of thing, I think, most of all. Okay. They do have new overhead headphones as well. So the running ones, the £300, don't have the 360 sound, hoping to bring it to it later. Your over-ear headphones that they've bought, they're a game changer, but yeah, I don't think that's a strange look anymore, because many manufacturers churn out headphones that look like that.
Okay, that's fine. It just might be where I live. That's all it is.
You are a little bit in the sticks in Wales, so...
yeah.
I mean, the other sort of thing that jumped out at me were two TVs. The LG Signature Series rollable OLED. I think that's brilliant, just as, if nothing else, a tech demo. And Samsung's 8K TV. But the 8K... I don't think there's a call for it yet. We don't yet have enough content in 4K. So putting an 8K TV out, it feels like we're doing it just because we can do it.
Yeah, I don't see a point of going that high at the moment, since our eyes don't really go to 8K. Not really.
They don't really go to 4K. What it is making sure that you've not got that graining around your pixels on the size of screen that you're utilizing. And as people are going to bigger and bigger screens, like I remember when people said, I've got a 37-inch widescreen, and it was a monster. That was the biggest screen you'd ever seen. You thought you could see everything on it. And now we've got people buying 100-inch televisions. And I don't know, why they're measured in inches. It's such an old school way of doing things. But two, I don't know where people are putting these. I don't have a 100-inch wall anywhere in my house. It's to make sure that your picture looks clear and unpixelated on those bigger screens. That's why.
That's the only reason for them. Yeah, that's the only reason for it.
When we haven't really got the content, we're only just getting native 4K games.
Yeah, that's true. We've
We're
only just started it.
Yeah, we're only just getting content created for television in 4K, and that's only if you subscribe to one of the streaming services, the likes of Netflix or Amazon.
Yeah, and in the gaming side, it's only going to really work if you have an Xbox One, the better one, the Scorpio, which is not called the Scorpio anymore, and like a PS4 Pro and a very high quality PC. It's the only times it's ever going to be working for it. And a lot of people don't have those things. They usually have just the standard PlayStation or the standard Xbox or just a standard PC. They don't have.
Even on Netflix, if you want the 4K, you have to pay for a more expensive version of it. And most people will just be like, I don't want to pay any more for it. For me, it's no hassle because I don't really use standard television. I do have a TV license because there's a few things on there that I like to watch.
Yeah.
But overall, it's one of those. There isn't really the content for the 4K that we've got. 8K seems a bit out there at the moment.
Yeah.
4K rollable TV, though, now that one makes sense to me.
Yeah. The only place I could see 8K being a very important thing is cinema. That's the only place I could see it being a very important thing at the moment.
Again, I'm not entirely sure. Last time I went to the cinema, it was to see Avengers Endgame, and that was 4K apparently, and it looked stupendous on that massive screen. So I can see it being even better, but I'm not entirely sure it's needed.
Well, no, but it's the only place I could see it as usable, like very usable. At them, it's just there because in filming they usually use like a camera that's even higher resolution than 8K. I can't remember what it is.
Well, it's like when people are saying, how can you take old films and make them 4K now? When you take, for example, a film like The Matrix, it was filmed on actual film. Yeah. That film is a perfect picture of ultra high quality, way higher than 4K. It's actual... I can't remember what this article I read said, but its actual definition is something along the lines of 16K.
Exactly.
If we were to put it in digital terminology. So all they do is just scan it in the highest res they can. So as long as they continue filming in that way. But we've moved to digital filming a lot as well. So maybe 8K cameras, 12K cameras, whatever the case may be.
I think most films now are filmed on either an 8K camera or higher than that really now. Just because so then they can future-proof any film they make.
Yeah,
really. That's the only reason for them. But really, I've quite enjoyed that conference. It was quite a lot in there.
I mean, it was long. It was a week long, so loads to look through. I was trying to keep up with it, like as the news was announced. And I couldn't, like the guys who were there who were creating content and putting it out minute after minute after minute. It's like, I've got no idea how you're doing this. Like, and these are well edited videos as well. Are you sleeping whilst you're at this conference? And I'm pretty sure the answer was no. But yeah, IFA this year was really good. It wasn't mind blowing. It didn't bring anything to the table that we hadn't seen before, but everything that it brought was of high quality. So I am very happy with the way IFA went. I'm very happy with the way September's gone, all in all, across the entirety of geekdom. It's been superb, and we haven't even spoken about movies and TV shows. We're going to have to sort of postpone them to next time because we're already pushing a massive time frame on this episode. But I've been really happy. Yeah, I've been really happy with September. It's been pretty darn good if you're a bit of a nerd or a geek.
It's been the month of announcements rather than actually the month of creation. It's like in terms of actually having a product. It's been a good month for sort of prepping for 2020 for the stuff that's going to come early 2020 or mid 2020 for summer. Rather than being here's something brand new that's coming out. And they released a couple of things. Like a lot of demos came out that some were good, some were terrible. Really didn't live up to the hype they were presenting, but some games and some that kind of slipped under the radar and was like, here, try this demo, and you played it and it was like, whoa, okay, And so
Yeah.
I should be looking forward to that. But movie-wise, next month I'm going to see Joker on the 5th. I'm so excited beyond belief, but I will save everything because it's very rare as someone as the DC guy is very much, especially the Batman guy, especially the Joker guy. It has been very, very rare for me to be invested in seeing a character portrayed since seeing Jack Nicholson do it.
Yeah.
And props to everyone that's done it, but in terms of seeing something that looks so iconically accurate, I'm hyped to no avail.
I mean, in terms of visual media, I really want to talk about Peaky Blinders, this latest season. So that's going to be on for next month. Now that we've got the season run, I'm really looking forward to that. I want to hear what you have to say about Joker, because I am on the opposite side of the fence to you. I am really dubious about whether or not this is going to be any good. I think it might tank. I don't think it's going to sit well with the actual DC Comics fans. Myself included.
The thing is with comic book movies is the people that review them and the people that go and see these movies to be part of these great big IGN or great big Sunday Times reviewers aren't necessarily in the long front, in the majority, geeks of that nature of the fandom, which is why when people like Batman vs Superman was a flop, and it's like, it wasn't amazing, but it was great for a comic book fan.
Yeah, I mean, I walked out of that movie with you.
Yeah, and we were like,
over the moon. We were so happy with how that went.
Yeah, exactly. And it set up a good universe. Granted, Justice League was awful, but it was a nice setup movie. And the movies that came from that in terms of the standalones as Wonder Woman and Aquaman, who have been highly well received, I think it's going to be a good... Personally, I think Marvel, the MCU, is going to drop so much now. And I think that DC and Dark Horse might take a couple of reigns over the coming years. Personally.
So we don't want that monopoly at all, do we? It gets a bit boring if it's just one doing well. Whereas if you've got multiples, bring it.
I think Warner Brothers and the people that create the DC movies just need to stop trying to compete. Not saying they're lost and not saying that it's an impossible fight for them to win. But if they're going into that mentality of being like, well, Spider-Man made $500 billion on opening.
They need to do their own thing.
That. No, you need to create a good movie for people to enjoy and for the fans to enjoy. That's exactly what Marvel did. When they made Iron Man, the first installment of the MCU series, they had no idea how much money that was going to make and how well it was going to do. They made it because they wanted to make an Iron Man movie, and it was done stupendously.
Exactly. Digital Painter, anything you're looking forward to talking about for visual media next month?
Not really, actually. There's not really anything.
Boku no Hero Season 4.
There is Boku no Hero Season 4 coming up, yes.
Yes, there is that. But there's not really anything on the horizon, really, that's not for a long while, that's coming. Anything that I'm really interested in. I'm not very much a TV series kind of person anymore. All I watch is internet stuff now, for some reason. Like a lot of Rooster Teeth, a lot of like the Critical Role things that we were saying before, and just a lot of older stuff as well, like stuff from the 90s and stuff like that. Like I was telling Crash before that I've started rewatching Yu-Gi-Oh.
Okay, on that note then, so Digital Painter, where can everybody find you on the internet?
You can find me on my Facebook page at Digital Painter. You can find me on Twitter as Sora123454 and on Twitch on the same name.
Crash, where can folks find you across this wonderful world of the interwebs?
You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/Crash Echo. That's EKO on the Echo. Same for my Twitter, same for my Instagram. The name carries across any form of social media you can find. Same on Twitch. It's just Crash Echo.
Lovely. For those looking to find Doragon across the world, I am a bit more interesting than these guys. So youtube.com/Jimbo2Surf, twitch.com/the Doragon86. Instagram is exactly the same. Twitter is _Doragon_86. And I think that's the differences between us. If you're on Facebook, it's /Doragon86. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Crash, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Digital Painter, thank you for joining.
Great time, mate. Great time today.
We will see you all in the next one. Hopefully not as long, because October will be a smaller month for announcements and such. But thank you all very much for tuning in. Until next time, take care.